Today, I wanted to jump on and just do a short video about something that causes a lot of confusion, especially with people who are just starting out doing consulting or doing fractional HR work. And honestly, it also confuses a lot of my clients as well. The terms HR consultant and fractional HR do get used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. I actually do both, and understanding the difference of those two things matters because mixing them up can lead to misaligned expectations, pricing issues, and frustrations on both sides. So let's break it down clearly. An HR consultant is brought on to solve a specific problem. So this work would typically be project based, clearly scoped, and focused on a defined outcome. Think like HR audits, investigations, compensation studies, handbook updates, or developing a brand new handbook, developing policies, advising leadership on a particular issue, things like that. When you hire an HR consultant, you're doing that for what they know, their expertise, their analysis, and recommendations, not for someone to run your HR function day to day. HR consultants are usually paid by project through a short term advisory retainer or using value based pricing. Once a project is complete, the engagement often ends. Fractional HR is different. Fractional work is not project work, it's an ongoing embedded HR leadership. When you hire fractional HR, you're essentially bringing in a part time director, a head of HR who works with an organization on a consistent, ongoing basis. Fractional HR typically includes managing employee relations, coaching managers, supporting leadership, coming up with, I've gone in on a fractional basis and developed the entire HR department for one of my clients. So you're actually getting in there and doing the work instead of just advising on the work. So think of fractional HR as not one off advice, but maybe more long term involvement in the company. You hire fractional HR for continuity, judgment, and ownership over time. Fractional HR is almost always paid through a monthly retainer based on scope or capacity. I don't recommend going in on an hourly basis. It also allows organizations to access senior level HR leadership without the cost of a full-time executive hire. Here's the simplest way to think about it. An HR consultant solves a problem, fractional HR owns HR. Consulting is short-term and focused, fractional HR is long-term and ongoing. Consulting is external expertise, fractional HR is embedded leadership. Where people get this wrong is when everyone gets labeled as a consultant or I'm doing consulting, even when what's really being provided is fractional HR. Or when a consultant is expected to behave like an internal HR leader, or when a fractional HR is priced like a one-time project, even though it carries ongoing responsibility, risk, and decision-making authority. If someone is attending leadership meetings every month, managing real-time employee issues, and helping guide leaders and people decision making over time, that is not consulting. That is fractional leadership. Here's something else that doesn't get said often enough. Most experienced HR professionals naturally moved into fractional HR, whether they plan to or not. Once you've been in HR long enough, businesses don't just want answers. They actually want someone who understands their culture, their risk, and their people, and who can help guide them on decisions over time. And that's why I do both. I provide HR consulting when a business needs a defined project or expert guidance. And I also provide fractional HR when a business needs ongoing HR leadership, but isn't ready for or doesn't really need a full-time HR executive. So I don't do fractional work for one company. I do fractional work for lots of clients at one time. Sometimes consulting can evolve into fractional HR. I know that's happened with me many times when I take on a new client. Sometimes fractional HR includes consulting projects. The distinction isn't about titles, it's about scope, responsibility, and time. So, how should a business decide? If a business has a specific issue to fix and needs expert guidance quickly and doesn't need ongoing leadership in HR, they likely need an HR consultant. If they don't have an internal HR person, they have maybe a smaller team, need someone to manage the HR month to month, also be an advisor to the leadership team, like in a leadership HR role, and also handle big, complicated employee issues as they come up, you'll likely need fractional HR. And one final point, fractional HR should never be priced like hourly consulting. It carries accountability, leadership responsibility, and organizational risk, and it should be treated and priced accordingly. If this helped you clarify things at all, I'm happy because again, it does get confusing, especially with us as HR professionals, probably have a great understanding of it, but a lot of my clients get very confused on what the difference is. If you're an HR professional trying to figure out which path makes sense for you, or in my case, intentionally do both, you're asking exactly the right questions. And I hope this helped you on your consulting fractional HR journey. Or it doesn't even have to be HR. You can be wanting to do fractional work in a different line, a different field. But anyways, if this resonated at all with you, please hit subscribe and like, and I will see you in the next video.